Thank you very much. And we have heard in all those really, really good speeches, not the least Dr. Steyer's, as always, making us take away the yield from our eyes and see things clearly. But I thought I should just give you 3 pictures from Gaza. The first one is in Gaza in 2002. We were there, a small delegation with 4 people. It was still led by Fatah. It was still possible to have a glass of wine, eat some fish, have a nice time. But the situation was very bad, we thought then, in 2002. It was a lot of killings of Palestinians. More than 2,000 Palestinians has killed since the last 2 years. There was an extreme situation for children. We met several children on hospitals. They have apathy. They were terrified with all the violence. But still there were some hopeful signs. The opinion polls show that a majority of the Israelis wanted to take away all settlements and to have a Palestinian state. A majority of the Israelis wanted that. And then I jumped 4 years forward to Gaza 2006. We were there with a delegation from the Socialist International. We were sitting in, we were going around in Khan Yunis and other places to see where the women came and they put their finger in the ink. It was 10 years since they had a possibility to vote, but now they could vote. There was kind of a hope for a new reality in Gaza. We were sitting in a house and watching the results coming in. It was Nabil Shad's house. And he was getting the information that it's going to be fine. We will fight Hamas and this will be nothing. Unfortunately, for both Palestine and the rest of the world, it was a shock. It was a shock, the election. Hamas won 74 out of 132 mandates. Fatah just got 45. And that was the beginning of Gaza becoming an Islamic dictatorship. It was the West, so to say, who has demanded election, but after the election, when the people said what they wanted, it did not agree for the rest of the world to recognize it. Neither Israel, neither the United States, and neither us in the EU. We didn't recognize what the people wanted. Jump 4 years to 2010. And here it's good to say, it's good to have contacts on both sides. I and one friend from the Olof Palme Center was going to visit so many projects. We had more than 20 projects in Gaza, but they didn't let us in. Then I called a labor person who worked at the Ministry of Defense and said, could you call in Eretz and tell them to let me in? I'm not a terrorist. I'm a nice person. And we would sit there for several hours, and then the guard said, come on, you can go in. Because the friends in Israel had phoned them and let us in. Now the situation was terrible in other ways than before. Because Hamas had, of course, taken away all the possibilities for women. Before there were like 30% women working in the Palestinian Authority. Now there was 0. It was not possible to go out for a woman without having a man with them. It was not possible to have normal freedoms as you could have in the West Bank. And now I don't talk about occupation, but I talk to be able to speak freely, to be able to be a man and a woman. At the same time, the UNRWA told us that now there was 1 million internal refugees that needed help and food. So the situation for the people were both an Islamist dictatorship on the occupation from Israel. Even if Israel has formally taken away the occupation in 2005, it was working as an occupation. This is a law, things like that. Final year, 2023, December, we were a delegation from the Party of European Socialists going to both the kibbutz of Be'eri, where the blood was still on the floors, where more than 100 people had been killed of the Hamas attack, where women have been raped. So it was a terrible situation. Then going to Ramallah, as always, and hearing that the occupation has been tougher and tougher and tougher, and we were of course not let in to Gaza. The reaction from the Israelis to this attack now has gone out of any proportionality. The killings of the people in Gaza, the people that I met already in 2002, has now been, I would say, the nightmares, atrocities, the worst horror you can think of is not enough to describe what the people of Gaza has been forced to live after this terrible, terrible situation. And that is why I think it's so important that we continue not to give up, because it's not worth it to give up. That's what Alva Myrdal, a Nobel Peace Prize winner from Sweden, said, it's not worth it to give up. But when you see this, as I said, the timeline, year after year after year after year, the Palestinians get worse and worse and worse and worse. And we get used to it. The world gets used to it. We don't fight as we did before for Palestinians. And the Israelis, of course, is making it more difficult. We had 20 projects, as I said, from the Olof Palme International Center in Gaza. Now, of course, there is none. Zero. We had support from UNRWA from Sweden, and we were leading trying to reform from Sweden and Jordan. Now the government gives UNRWA zero. Zero. Because it's seen as kind of a, what they say, terrorist-influenced organization. And Timo said that I'm not an expert. Exactly. That's why you should be here. Because if we only are those who have been working with Palestine and Israel forever, since we were young as the young parliamentarians who are here, nothing will change. We need to reach out to those who are not experts on the Middle East. We need to reach out to those to make decisions, to the parliamentarians and policymakers, and we need to get all of this together. And we need not to give up, and that's why I think that we really need to get these kind of initiatives going. It's also, I feel a little bit, not ashamed, but for so many years we have given, we as the international community, but the Palestinians hope. One initiative after another. Government initiative, UN initiative, NGO initiative, and it's just withering away. And what the OCHA called the salami way of taking piece by piece by piece by piece, like a salami, from the Palestinian land is succeeding. 880,000 settlers. They haven't even started to build a wall, 2002. So we need not to get used to it. We need to continue. We need to get alliances between non-experts, like Timo called himself, policymakers and activists, to be able to give some hope to the Palestinians, because if you see it on the long term, there is nothing to actually feel good about if we all get used to it. So that's what we not should do. We should continue, and I thank everybody here who would like to support our Nordic Initiative, and I hope we can broaden it for the future. Thank you.